I was 7,000 miles from home when I got an email that ended my marriage. 3 lines. 1 PDF. 13 years erased. She thought I'd be too far away to fight back. She didn't know I was watching. She didn't know I had a plan. If you believe betrayal deserves consequences, subscribe now. These are real stories of revenge, justice, and redemption. You won't want to miss what's coming next. You don't expect your marriage to end in a PDF. But there I was, sitting in a tent in the middle of Kandahar, 42 years old, a staff sergeant with the 82nd Airborne, staring at an email that simply read, "Let's be adults about this." 3 sentences. That's all it took to end 13 years of marriage. Becky had already filed the papers, already emptied our joint savings, already moved her new boyfriend Jeremy into our house back in Spokane. The subject line felt like a joke. The attachment, a punch to the gut. I read the email twice, closed my laptop, took a freezing shower in the communal stall, got dressed for my shift, didn't say a word to anyone. That night, I responded with one word. Understood. Wilson, my bunkmate, glanced up from his paperback and said, "You good, man?" "Yeah," I said, voice steady. "Just some stuff back home." He nodded, and that was the end of it. That's how it works out here. You learn when to talk and when to shut the hell up. But truth is, I wasn't surprised. 6 months before I deployed, things started shifting. Becky had become different, more distant. First it was small things. She stopped asking about my day, started working late at the dental office more often, started going to the gym, buying new clothes she never wore around me. Her phone, once left on the counter, was now always face down, password locked. I didn't confront her. I didn't accuse. That's not my style. Instead, I started preparing. I moved important documents into a private storage unit across town. My birth certificate, our marriage license, the house deed that only had my name on it thanks to the VA loan, my grandfather's watch, my mother's silverware, everything that mattered. I opened a new bank account, separate from our joint one, and rerouted a portion of my pay. Not enough to raise red flags, just enough to avoid starting from zero if my gut was right. And damn, was it right. The night before I deployed, Becky hugged me at the airport. "Stay safe, okay?" she said. Her voice didn't crack. Her eyes were dry, like she was saying goodbye to a coworker, not a husband. 2 weeks after the email, I was eating eggs in the mess hall when my phone buzzed with a bank notification. Becky had pulled another $8,500 from our joint savings. That brought the grand total to nearly everything. $47,000 in savings? Gone. I set down my fork, opened the app, and saw it in black and white. She'd been draining our accounts for weeks, waiting until I was 7,000 miles away. I called the bank that night from the base phone center. They confirmed the withdrawals, most of them made shortly after my deployment. Becky had been preparing too, just not in the same way. Later that night, I sat alone on my bunk, laptop open to our home security system, something Becky had forgotten I could access remotely. Cameras still live. A strange man walking our dog. My favorite Seahawks hoodie on a stranger's back. Becky, barefoot, laughing in the kitchen I renovated myself during leave. It didn't hurt. It focused me. I pulled out my notebook and started making a list. Call James, my army buddy turned lawyer. Check the VA loan terms. Review recent refinance documents she mentioned last year. Lock down military pension access. This wasn't about emotion anymore. It was strategy now. I didn't need to scream. Didn't need to beg. Didn't even need to confront her. All I had to do was let her actions tighten the noose. When I landed back in Washington 2 months later, I didn't go home. Instead, I checked into a small motel outside Spokane under a different name. Didn't tell Becky. Didn't announce my return. Just like in the field. You don't tip your position until you're ready to strike. The next morning, I met James at a roadside diner. He slid a folder across the table. "Everything we discussed," he said. and something else. Inside was a refinance application. Becky's signature next to mine. Except it wasn't mine. The middle initial was wrong. The loop on the B was off. Someone had tried to forge my name. She took out $330,000 against the house, James said. You never signed for it. She did this without me knowing? I asked, though the answer was already obvious. She didn't just do it alone, James replied. She listed her boyfriend Jeremy as co-applicant. And here's the kicker. He's got priors. 2 DUIs and a fraud charge. I sat back and exhaled. So she forged my name, took out a massive loan, and involved a guy with a criminal record. All while I was on deployment, James nodded. Busy woman. I stared down at the papers. What are my options? You've got choices, James said. But first, you need to decide what you want. Revenge? Restitution? Closure? I didn't have to think long. I want what's legally mine. And I want her to understand what real consequences feel like. Then we go quiet, smart, and fast. And that's exactly what we did. The next few days moved fast. First, we filed a fraud report with the bank and flagged the refinance as unauthorized. James hand-delivered documents to the loan officer. When he saw the mismatch in signatures and my military deployment dates, his face went pale. That same evening, I accessed our home cameras again. Becky was gone. Jeremy was there. Barefoot, feet up on my coffee table, flipping through the channels like he owned the place. And then, the bombshell. James called me the next morning. You're going to want to sit for this, that refinance money? Becky already moved a chunk of it. To where? I asked. To a real estate agent named Daniel Spencer. And guess what? Jeremy's name is tied to him in multiple past transactions. A beat of silence. Then James added, She's selling your house. They're trying to flip it. Fast. The fury didn't come. Just the confirmation of what I already suspected. I had one thought. She played me like a fool. But she forgot who taught me to play the long game. We watched them from a distance. James and I parked across the street in his sedan like we were back on a stakeout in Kandahar. Becky left the house just before 10. Not for work. Not for errands. She was heading to meet me. Or so she thought. 20 minutes later, Spencer pulled up in a black Audi. Jeremy greeted him with a handshake like it was a business meeting, which, in a way, it was. Let's wait, I said. Give them time to get comfortable. I checked the live feed from the cameras. Jeremy and Spencer were in the kitchen, my kitchen, pouring coffee, laughing like old friends. Then Spencer started snapping photos of the living room, of the crown molding I'd installed by hand, the hardwood I refinished after my last tour. This place will move quick, he said. Market's hot. You'll be out before he even notices. That's when I hit record. Should list by Thursday, Spencer added. Cash buyer lined up. We go in at $470, settle at $420, you pocket the rest. I forwarded the footage to James and to Agent Patel at the FBI. Within the hour, 2 unmarked cars rolled up the street. Jeremy and Spencer were let out in cuffs. Becky? She was still sitting at Riverfront Park, waiting for a meeting that would never come. An hour later, my phone buzzed. Blocked number. I answered. A pause. Then Becky's voice, cracking and uncertain. Nathan? What did you do? I did exactly what I said I would, I replied calmly. I protected what was mine. She started crying. Not sobbing. Controlled, quiet tears. I didn't know. I didn't know what Jeremy was doing. I thought we were just starting over. You forged my signature, I reminded her. I didn't know it was illegal. That's the definition of fraud, Becky. She went quiet. Then, softly, they arrested him. And the realtor. They're talking about indictments. I'm scared, Nathan. You weren't scared when you moved him into my house, I said. When you emptied our accounts. When you filed divorce papers while I was deployed. Silence. I was stupid, she said eventually. I thought I was being smart, protecting myself. But I got in over my head. Yeah, I said. You did. What happens to me now? I didn't answer. Because that wasn't up to me anymore. 2 weeks later, I got a call from Agent Patel. Jeremy and Spencer both flipped, she said. We've confirmed multiple other families were targeted in the same way. But your case gave us the leverage to make arrests. So thank you. And Becky? I asked. She hasn't been charged? Yet, Patel said carefully. But she's being investigated. It depends on how much she knew and whether she cooperates. I exhaled slowly. Understood. That same day, my lawyer called. Becky wants to meet, in person. Why? She says she wants to apologize, maybe negotiate a settlement. I agreed. Not because I wanted closure, because I wanted to see her face when she realized I wasn't afraid of her anymore. We met in a neutral office space, a conference room downtown. Becky looked tired, worn, smaller somehow. She opened with the usual, I'm sorry, I don't believe you, I said flatly. But go ahead. I thought you were going to leave me. I thought you'd pick the army over us. And Jeremy, he made me feel like someone wanted me again. So you stole everything, I said. You forged documents, tried to sell our house, lied to the FBI. I didn't lie to them. You just conveniently forgot what you were doing while cash was flowing into your boyfriend's accounts. Becky looked down. I made mistakes. No, I said. You made choices. I don't expect you to forgive me, she said, voice shaking. But I need you to know. I never wanted to hurt you. You just didn't care if you did, I replied. She closed her eyes, nodded slowly. I want to cooperate with the FBI, she said finally. I'll give them everything I know. Names, timelines, transfers. Just, please, don't let them take everything. I'm not the one taking anything from you, Becky. You did that yourself. She looked like she was going to say more, but I stood up. I'm not here for reconciliation, I said. I'm here to make sure the woman I married doesn't drag down any more people. I walked out. And this time, I didn't look back. The court date arrived faster than expected. James had filed everything. Financial fraud, forged signature, property tampering, and more. Becky's lawyer tried to delay, but the evidence was too strong. She showed up in court looking polished, her makeup hiding the sleepless nights. But her hands trembled when she saw the documents laid out in front of the judge. James did most of the talking. I sat beside him, calm, collected. Becky avoided my eyes the entire time. When the judge ruled that the refinance was void, the crowd in the courtroom murmured. When the house was reverted to my name alone and Becky ordered to repay damages, she gasped audibly. Afterward, outside the courthouse, she approached me. You didn't have to destroy me, she whispered. I looked her in the eyes. You did that to yourself. The media got hold of the story within a week. Veteran uncovers multi-state real estate fraud scheme while deployed overseas. That headline ran on every local station, then made its way to national outlets. But I didn't talk to the press. I didn't want recognition. I wanted peace. Jeremy and Spencer were both indicted on multiple counts: conspiracy, fraud, forgery. Becky was named as a cooperating witness. She avoided prison, but she lost everything else. Her job at the dental office? Gone. Her reputation? Tarnished. Her new relationship? Over before the first court hearing. And me? I walked away with the house, my pension, and something I hadn't felt in a long time. Clarity. I bought a new truck, adopted a dog, ripped out the kitchen Becky had laughed in with another man, and rebuilt it from the studs with my own 2 hands. Sometimes, late at night, I'd sit on the porch, watching the horizon fade into blue shadow, and think about the man I used to be. Trusting, quiet, always the last to speak. That version of me is gone, and what stands in his place is someone stronger, sharper, and absolutely unwilling to be taken for a fool ever again. I spent the next few months rebuilding. Not just the house, but myself. Therapy helped. So did long drives into the country with the dog, Scout, head out the window, tongue flapping like a flag of freedom. One afternoon, I was stacking firewood behind the cabin when my phone rang. James. Thought you should hear it from me, he said. Becky's officially filed bankruptcy. I didn't say anything. She tried to claim the divorce settlement was coercive. The judge didn't buy it. Her assets are frozen. IRS is investigating now too. She always was ambitious, I muttered. She called me, James added. Wanted me to pass along a message. What was it? He hesitated. She said, "Tell Nathan I still love him." I leaned on the axe handle and looked out at the tree line. You think she means it? I asked. James was quiet for a beat. I think it doesn't matter anymore. By spring, the snow had melted, and with it, the last of the pain I hadn't realized I was still carrying. I built a workshop next to the cabin. Nothing fancy, just enough space for woodworking projects, a small forge, and a radio I kept tuned to country oldies. Working with my hands, building again from nothing, felt like the right kind of therapy. The VA offered me a position as a part-time advisor for new veterans transitioning back to civilian life. I took it. Every Thursday afternoon, I drove into town, sat across from guys who still smelled like dust and diesel, and listened. Told them what no one had told me, that sometimes your battle starts after you hang up your uniform. One day after group, a young Marine named Jace lingered behind. You ever lose everything? He asked, eyes hollow. I thought for a moment. Then I said, No, I didn't lose everything. I just realized what wasn't worth keeping. He nodded slowly, then walked out, and for the first time in years, I felt useful. That summer, the days got longer and the memories got quieter. I planted a garden behind the cabin. Tomatoes, beans, onions. Nothing fancy. But there was something powerful in watching something grow from the dirt with your own hands. Something honest. Scout, my dog, took to lying in the sun nearby, occasionally chasing a bird just to remind them he still could. One afternoon, I got a letter from the VA. A thank you note, along with a certificate recognizing my work helping other vets reintegrate. It came with no fanfare, no press release, but it meant something. That same week, James forwarded me a message from a family stationed in North Carolina. They'd been victims of the same fraud ring. My case had led the FBI to their door in time to save their home. I wrote them back. Told them to stay strong. That justice isn't always loud, but it does arrive. And then I sat down and started writing something I hadn't touched in years. My story. Not for revenge, not for recognition, but because maybe one day, some other soldier halfway across the world will read it and realize they're not alone. Fall came early in Montana. The nights grew crisp. The mornings started with mist curling over the creek out back. I split wood for the winter, stocked the pantry, and leaned into the stillness of a life no longer built on someone else's promises. Then, one morning, a letter arrived. No return address, just my name written in a familiar looping hand. Becky. I sat on the porch, Scout resting by my boots, and opened it slowly. Inside was a single sheet of paper. I know I have no right, but I needed to say this. I'm sorry. Truly. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't expect anything. I just hope you found peace, because you earned it in ways I never understood. I was weak, and you were strong. I see that now. Goodbye, Nathan. No signature, just those words. I folded the letter and burned it in the fire pit that evening. Not out of spite, out of finality. Some chapters need fire to close properly. It's strange, the quiet that follows closure. There's no fanfare, no dramatic music or emotional climax. Just a deep, uninterrupted stillness. And the sense that the ground beneath you finally stopped shifting. I started volunteering at the local high school woodshop, teaching kids how to use their hands for more than just screens. It wasn't about the work. It was about the rhythm, the patience, The ability to shape something rough into something real. One of the students, a lanky senior named Tyler, reminded me of myself at 17, angry at the world, hiding it behind sarcasm and hoodies. He stayed late one day, asked if I ever missed the life I had before. I paused before answering. No, I said finally, because it was built on the wrong foundation. He nodded, not fully understanding. But one day, maybe he would. One morning in early November, I took Scout for a long walk through the woods behind the cabin. The trees were gold and fire red, the ground crunching beneath our boots and paws. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was running from something. I was simply walking forward, into the next chapter.